Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Symbiotic Spores, Hundreds of Millions of Deductions, Infinite Evolution. 11. Chapter 11. The Ranking of the Standings, Lu Ruvua and Hash039, S Doubts. Is this year's newcomer so fierce? I haven't watched it for a while. Zhao Long, who is number 1 in the standings, has more than 5,000 points. Which session of my year, the highest was only in the early 3000s. The outside world's webcast talks inside. Someone expressed emotion. Hee, you missed the good show upstairs, hurry up and watch the recording. I watched Zhao Long's live broadcast yesterday, and he rushed into the herd alone, chasing 3 or 4 bronze-level monster hammers. And the ability of his symbiote, if I read it correctly, should be a kind of mythical dragon. In the future, there will be another king in my Daxia Federation. Someone replied excitedly, hey, it's not that easy. Humans haven't had a new king for 100 years. And I think the third-placed goddess Wei Na is even more powerful. The ability of her awakening is only an auxiliary type, and even so, she can get more than 4,000 points. She is not without the energy to fight the monster group alone. At this time, a different opinion was raised. Warcraft, upstairs is from the Western Federation. That Wei Na is indeed beautiful, but to be powerful, it has to be our Zhao Long. Although she is an auxiliary ability, she is just right for group fights. Our Daxia Zhao Long is a fierce man who tears monsters with his hands. Quote. On the internet, people enthusiastically discuss the famous front row players. Lu Ruvua picked up a cup of coffee and brought it to her mouth. His eyes were always on the second place in the leaderboard. Drip drip. At this time, a dialogue window popped up on the screen in front of her. Lu Ruvua put down the coffee and clicked to agree. Little painting, do you see the second place in the standings? That's the student I taught, how is it, isn't it amazing? At the other end of the window, a beautiful face appeared. She looked at Lu Ruvua and started showing off as soon as she came up. That student of yours didn't start the live broadcast, and I don't know the specifics. But looking at the points, is it not as good as that Zhao Hu? Lu Ruvua pouted and said, hey, that Zhao Hu is nothing more than good luck, and there are many monsters in the training area. Looking at his fighting style, he's not as good as my student at all. Especially, my student's symbiote is no weaker than Zhao Hu. Besides, that Zhao Hu is not your student. You talk about him. The other party retorted disdainfully. By the way, what about your students? Let's not talk about the top 100 in the standings, how many are there in the 1000? The other party continued to ask. Bad luck, no, Lu Ruvua answered very succinctly. Haha, I knew it. When the experience is over, I will recommend my student. With her excellence, there is absolutely no problem. When the time comes, I can go back, reconnect to the Heavenly Dao network, and go to fight with the 10,000 races. As for you, just keep waiting, ha ha ha. The other party laughed. It had been so many years, she could be considered to have won Lu Ruvua once. Boring, I don't even think about it. I was punished because of whom? Lu Ruvua snorted coldly with an unhappy expression. Then immediately hung up the communication. At the same time, his eyes were once again placed on the second place in the standings. Then she seemed to think of something and started to check Yian's points. Only in the early 300. The live broadcast is also not turned on, why is the gap so big? Lu Ruvua couldn't help but sighed. The reality told her that this student of hers should be an ordinary student who usually works very hard. But her intuition made her feel that her student was definitely not ordinary. But so far it hasn't been great. A bit confusing. Ah, who is thinking of me? In the mushroom house. Yian rubbed his nose. Considering that I have few friends and no relatives. Yian thinks it should be the 2 little beauties he met 2 days ago. Forget it, don't think about it. Women are floating clouds. Upgrading and becoming stronger is the kingly way. Look at the delicious fruits around. Yian picked them up happily and swallowed them one by one. Ding, congratulations to the host drain, sequence enhancement failed. Ding, congratulations to the host drain, sequence enhancement failed. Ding, congratulations to the host drain, sequence strengthening successfully. Your ability, Enhanced Absorption, has been upgraded to Violent Absorption. Your ability, Energy Storage, has been upgraded to Compression Storage. Quote. Watch your abilities strengthen and succeed. Yi An's face was not as happy as before. Failed twice in a row. It looks like the ability enhancement is coming to an end. The next step is to raise your level. But if the level is raised too fast, it is easy to cause the foundation to be unstable. It's just awakening new abilities. For me, I don't have to worry at all. Yi An sighed. The upgrade is too fast and the foundation is unstable. If you don't upgrade, if you want to strengthen your ability, the chance of failure will only increase. As for the newly awakened ability, most of them are very weak. Sure enough, it is basically impossible to eat fat in one go. Forget it, it's better to be content with being a human being. My harvest, compared to others, can be said to be heaven and earth. Thinking of this, Yi An adjusted his mentality. Then start the communication system to deduce the current situation. Ding, the deduction begins. At present, the host can raise the cultivation base to the late bronze stage. At the same time, rather than strengthening existing abilities, the host can try to awaken new abilities. In addition, continuing to strengthen the growth sequence will allow the host to have a certain frontal combat capability. The system gives suggestions. Yi An pondered for a while. Finally made a choice. Raise your cultivation first, then strengthen the growth sequence to see. It's really not good, and then awaken new abilities. For Yi An, frontal combat capability is not required though. But consider later. It is also a good choice to have combat capabilities in advance. After leaving this training area, he doesn't know where he will go next time. It may not be suitable for the reproduction and growth of spores. At that time, it still had to rely on frontal combat ability. Eat the fruit. Yi An began to meditate and practice. Use your body to absorb this spiritual power. Immediately after the second fruit, the third. Yi An's breath kept rising. It didn't take long for the cultivation base to reach the late bronze stage. If you continue, breaking through the silver level is a trivial matter. Yi An said intentionally. The feeling of leveling up is very comfortable. But he also sensed the vanity of his own power. But the current situation is just right, and a little vain feeling won't really affect him. This vain feeling will disappear automatically in a few days. It's time to continue strengthening. Fortunately, I still think about whether I will become the protagonist of a hot-blooded novel after crossing. I spend the whole day in the slaughter of monsters, and I always think about going against the sky. I didn't expect the reality to be an enhanced skill tree. Yi An smiled lightly, showing a comfortable expression. I am afraid that no one can cultivate more easily than him. Asterisk. Symbiotic Spores. Hundreds of millions of deductions, infinite evolution. 12. Chapter 12. Basic nerve tentacles, wildly harvesting resources. Ding, congratulations to the host on the success of strengthening the growth sequence. Your ability, rapid growth, has evolved into savage growth. Your ability, rapid reproduction, has evolved into cellular reproduction. Your ability, mycelium enhancement, is advancing. Your ability, probability evolution, is activated. Your ability, savage growth, and cell reproduction, merge to evolve into cell repair. Your ability, mycelium enhancement, energy conduit, basic neural network, extends a new ability, basic neural tentacles. Note: the extension ability is not merged and evolved. The original ability will not disappear, but a new ability will be added. What's going on? Probability evolution is so powerful. Look at the system prompt. Feel the change in yourself. Yi An's expression can be said to be as surprised as she is. Doesn't it mean that the probability of probabilistic evolution is very low? Why did it start again? How lucky are you? Ding, when the host's ability is enough to merge and evolve, the probability of probabilistic evolution will be greatly increased. In other words, this is the fusion of its own abilities. Even if there is no probability of evolution, the host's ability may change autonomously. Then the system came out to explain. I see. Yi An showed an expression of sudden realization. He has never had access to this knowledge. What I learned before awakening, in addition to the connection of basic martial arts. It is how to meditate and practice after awakening, including some methods of cultivating the origin of symbiosis. However, in terms of specific ability training, in fact, no detailed knowledge has been learned. After all, it is useless to learn this knowledge in advance. It is better to wait until after awakening to study. For example, Yian encountered this kind of problem shortly after awakening. There are not many cases in the entire human history. So no one will care about this and teach this knowledge in advance. This cell repair seems to be able to repair my own body. Feel the newly acquired abilities. Yian hesitated, took out the dagger, and lightly cut a wound on the back of his hand. With his current level of cultivation, even if this wound is not treated, it will basically recover without a scar by tomorrow. So even if cell repair really doesn't work for him, Yian won't really get hurt. Cell repair. Yian murmured softly at the corner of his mouth. This is a psychological cue to yourself. In this way, the ability to activate will be faster and more stable. Just the next moment he activated his ability. The wound on the back of the hand began to close quickly. It's like an open zipper being closed. The wound on the back of the hand quickly disappeared. Not even a trace of injury. Incredible. This repair speed, as long as I can breathe a sigh of relief, I can basically save myself. Of course, the premise is to have enough spiritual power. This is not a problem at all. As long as I am near the spore crops, my spiritual power will not be completely exhausted. Thinking of this, Yian showed an ecstatic expression. The healing effect of this ability is truly heaven-defying. Even a rare healing-type symbiotic object, the awakened ability is estimated to be less powerful than himself in the early stage. The only difference is that this ability can only heal himself. But for Yian, he is alone, why should he treat others? Satisfying yourself is enough. As for another extended ability, Yian spread his palms. A tiny white mycelium grows. And with Yian's thoughts, it automatically twists into various shapes. There is a tactile sensation, it feels like your own hand. In addition, it has the ability to perceive vision, although it can only see black and white and blurred outlines. At the same time, thanks to this skill, I can control all kinds of crops after the spores grow more handy. That's right. Yian suddenly thought of an important thing. He manipulated this white mycelium to grow rapidly and then entangle each other. The last tube in the form of mycelium was successfully formed. I solved the trouble of blood essence energy transportation before, and I can sit back and enjoy it. But some monsters have crystal cores. And the crystal nucleus is very special, it can easily be absorbed by the human body and then dissipate directly. But my spore plants can't directly absorb the crystal nucleus. It is now completely possible to transport through these freely controllable mycelia. There's no need for me to pick them up one by one. Yian was overjoyed. The original idea was to finish cutting the leeks of the monsters here. Then pick up the nucleus. But now it looks like that last bit of trouble has been saved. But there is one thing, this wave of strengthening, although the harvest is rich. But the consumption of spiritual power is also huge. If you compare it with your own reserves, even if he sucked him dry 10 times, he couldn't complete the strengthening of the growth sequence at all. At this time, through the mycelium network, he can also perceive it. Only a small part of the monsters on the entire map are left. It is estimated that the remaining monster blood essence is only enough for him to strengthen another sequence. As for the growth sequence, if you want to continue strengthening, it is estimated that you have to add those crystal nuclei that have not yet been collected. Besides, the odds of failure are far greater than the odds of success. Continuing to strengthen it is basically a waste of spiritual power. Now transport the crystal core first, and at the same time spread the poisonous mist to hunt down the last batch of monsters. That group is slowly gathering and getting bigger. Looking at their target, it seems to be a nearby Darkmoon wildkin sleeping underground. Darkmoon owl beasts at the peak of bronze are not worth gathering so many people. I always feel that something is wrong. Forget it, let's see if they haven't done anything for a short time. Wait until I finish the harvest, if they haven't finished, they can just join in the fun. Yian planned. After giving instructions to the mycelium network to transport crystal nuclei and release poison circles, Yian also ignored other things. Instead, he lay comfortably on the mycelium bed and began to sleep. At the same time, followed by Yian's instructions. On the corpses of the monsters that were sucked dry one after another, many strange white hyphae grew. These hyphae are like tentacles, rummaging inside the body of the monster. After getting the nucleus, countless mycelial tentacles grew out, and then began to roll over each other to become a nuclei transport channel. These pipes are uneven. At low places, numerous mycelial tentacles will grow inside the pipes, transporting the nuclei to high places. When the nucleus reaches a height, it will freefall and slide down a long distance. In this way, numerous crystal nuclei were quickly transported towards Yian's direction. When Yian woke up and opened his eyes again, in his mushroom hut, a small pile of crystal cores have been accumulated. Asterisk. Symbiotic Spores. Hundreds of millions of deductions, infinite evolution. 13. Chapter 13. Zhao Qingran and Hash-039, S. Disdain, Spiritual Bishop. Qingran, you didn't find it. There are so many kinds of mushrooms, almost everywhere. A girl spoke up. Yang Meng, you just found out, this mushroom has been around for a long time. But when we first came, it didn't seem to be there yet. Zhao Qingran said. When you said that, I remembered that I didn't see these mushrooms at first. But then it seemed that we could meet wherever we went. Yang dreamed and said, it's normal. Mushrooms spread and grow very fast. Zhao Qingran said, in fact, it's not just the two of them. Others also notice the mushrooms everywhere. But most people don't care. After all, the training area is not the ancestral star, but the ecological environment of other planets. It is normal to have more mushrooms. And some people have tested it, and it is not poisonous at all. Even the taste is good. Therefore, there are still people who pick mushrooms to eat these days. Yian had already discovered this kind of behavior. The mushrooms outside the range of the poisonous mist are also deliberately kept free of toxins. Avoid alerting people. Anyway, when he needs it, these mushrooms will turn into poisonous mushrooms in a short time. Hey, I've been here for a few days, although there are more and more people. But there's been no movement so boring. And that Yanzu doesn't know where he's going, and when I ask someone, they say I haven't seen him. Yang Meng suddenly sighed. Pick a mushroom at random, and then slowly tear off the mushroom's umbrella leaf. A strong sense of boredom emanated. I can't eat well, sleep well, and have no games to play here. She couldn't take it anymore. I knew it would not come. If you quit early, you will easily be laughed at by adults and other friends. Okay, don't be boring. Looks like it's about to start. At this time, Zhao Qingran looked not far away. That Gen Y, who was wearing a classical robe, found a high place. Start gathering the crowd and get ready to do it. Everyone, I think you already understand the specific situation. But now I have to continue. After this is done, each of you will have 20 W of hard work. The extra 50,000 is the compensation for waiting here for a few days. Next, the Dark Moon Wildkin will be promoted soon. And I have a one-time formation here that can combine your strengths. We have prepared everything in advance, and when the Dark Moon Wildkin is successfully promoted, we can kill it instantly. Gen Y said loudly. It is good. The people below heard it and shouted. Most of them were born ordinary people with little savings at home. Hearing that he could make an extra 50,000 yuan, he was naturally excited. But not everyone is so happy. I want to ask, the price of a silver-level Dark Moon Wildkin is less than 300,000 yuan at the highest. The fee for our more than 80 people is more than 16 million. No matter how you look at it, the value is not equal. At this time, someone stood up and questioned. To spend 16 million for something worth 200,000. No matter how you look at it, there is a problem. I know you're worried if I'm a liar. Let's put it this way, I want the crystal core of the Dark Moon Owl, not for training. It's a gamble with people. Winning is the most important thing for me. As for this amount of money, I really don't care. It's just pocket money for 2 months. Gen Y said richly. Seeing his disdain for money, everyone quickly dispelled their suspicions. Hey, it's the same as the truth. The style of clothes you wear should never exceed 1,000 yuan. At this level of consumption, I don't believe it if I don't think it's worth more than 10 million. At this time, the girl next to Zhao Qingran snorted coldly. At the same time, she felt that this Junwei was deceiving people to work for him. But she didn't mean to dismantle it. It's none of her business anyway, and she didn't plan to help. She stayed here just to watch the show and have fun. At that time, when someone else helped him solve the Dark Moon Wildkin, and then found that Gen Y had no money at all. That's called a good show. That's it. After Junwei completely persuaded everyone, it didn't take long for everyone to form a special pattern according to Junwei's instructions. The two daughters, Zhao Qingran, found an opportunity to leave in advance, and finally observed the situation in the dark. They are not short of money, and they are here to have fun. It is impossible for them to contribute. It seems that there are a few people, but fortunately, the number is still more than 80 now. These numbers are enough to sacrifice. Junwei looked at the number of people and muttered. As for those who are missing, he doesn't care anymore. Because he knew that not all students were from ordinary backgrounds. The children of some big families really despised his 200,000. And it's hard to find it now. Everyone, please keep your position, and I'll go and see the situation of the Dark Moon Wildkin. There may be a battle at any time in the future, please be careful. Junwei said to the crowd, then turned around and left, heading to the Dark Moon Wildkin's lair. How is the situation here? I'm ready outside. Inside the lair, Junwei looked at the other three and asked. Dark Moon Wildkin can be promoted at any time. Planning can begin now. Said another. Okay, let's start implementing the plan. Everything is for the Great Spirit Lord. For the Great Spirit Master. The four said with fanatical admiration. ... Everyone, the Dark Moon Owl has begun to advance. The process won't be too fast. So now I'm going to start the formation and borrow your power. After a while, Junwei, who left the lair and returned to the ground, said eagerly. Just by looking at his expression, everyone felt that the Dark Moon Owl was really about to be promoted. As everyone knows, during the time that Junwei was in the lair, the Dark Moon Wildkin has been promoted. Everyone, help me. Junwei activated the formation. Start to draw strength from other people. Others felt the spiritual power being drawn from their bodies. They subconsciously resisted. Seeing this, Junwei also reminded loudly. Others are no longer resisting, and concentrate on providing strength. However, when the huge spiritual power gathers, it didn't turn into a powerful attack. Instead, it exploded directly. Countless spiritual powers disappeared. What's going on? How did the spiritual power spread? This formation doesn't seem to be an attack formation, it's just a transformed spirit gathering formation. So we were deceived. I've been waiting here for a few days, and now my spiritual power is still drained. Jane, what do you mean, dare to lie to so many of us? Someone shouted at Junwei. How about lying to you? And it's all because of you being too greedy. I really think it's your turn to have a pie in the sky. You are nothing more than a sacrifice I gave to the Great Spirit Master. Don't resist, just wait until you die. Junwei laughed. Hear the word, Spirit Lord. The pupils of the two women hiding in the dark instantly shrank. The expression on his face watching the play also froze for a moment. Asterisk. Symbiotic Spores. Hundreds of millions of deductions, infinite evolution. 14. Chapter 14. Mighty Wildkin, Mushroom Channel. Spirit Lord. Damn it, everyone killed him, this is a believer of the Spirit Lord cult. No wonder he dared to lie to so many of us, it turned out to be a lunatic from the Spirit Lord cult. HMPH, a lunatic is a lunatic. Although we have no spiritual power, the superhuman under the gold, the fighting ability of the body is everything. Let's go together, even if he has spiritual power, one person can slap him to death. Everyone heard the word Spirit Lord. They were also stunned. But soon, anger flooded my heart. The so-called spiritual bishop is a sect created by the god-level strong spiritual master of the endless world. The purpose of its existence is to cause chaos and destruction within the human race. At its worst, there was even a massacre of the city. Therefore, the bishop is absolutely shouted and beaten by everyone in the human race. And after defeating the necromancer, the reward is also very generous. So after everyone learned the identity of Junwei, the first reaction was to kill him. The mere sacrifice also wants to kill me. Although I'm not your opponent. But have you forgotten, why did I call you here? Junwei said with a disdainful look on his face. Next moment, a soaring roar sounded. A creature more than 4 meters high rushed out, looking at everyone with a tyrannical breath. Dark Moon Owl Beast. It's a silver-level Dark Moon Owl Beast. Everyone, run, this Dark Moon Owl Beast is controlled by the spiritual bishop. There is no spiritual power now, we are not opponents at all. Someone started to exclaim. The idea of the transcendent. Although it is true that it is a struggle with heaven and earth. But you also have to look at reality. Silver level Dark Moon Wildkins are really not something they can deal with. Most of them hover around the Dark Iron level. There are really not many people at the Bronze level. Now the spiritual power has also been consumed. What did they use to fight the Dark Moon Wildkin? If there is spiritual power, rely on their own abilities. With so many people working together, it might be possible to get around. But now, there is really no way. If you don't run, you will die. Ching ran, do we want to follow? Even if the two of us have spiritual power, we are definitely not the opponents of the Dark Moon Wildkin. So, Yang Meng, who was hiding in the dark, asked. But turned around and found it. Zhao Qingran had already run away. Qingran, don't tell me if you want to run. Yang Meng said angrily, then quickly chased after him. What should I do? Do you want to notify the monitor? Because Zhao Qingran deliberately slowed down. So soon Yang Meng caught up with her. You think too much. If the spiritual bishop dares to do this, he must have done it in advance. Zhao Qingran took out the long sword and pressed it on the hilt. A virtual window pops up. And the content in the middle of this window is that there is no signal. In other words, neither live broadcast nor contacting off-site personnel will work. Then what to do? That Dark Moon Owl beast is very powerful. If there is no signal, we can't quit early. There are still a few days until the end of the experience. In case the Dark Moon Owl beast catches up, Yang Meng couldn't even imagine what happened next. Go to the poisonous fog. The vision is hazy in the poisonous fog, and it can also cover up our smell. Just find a hiding place before the body is completely paralyzed. Should help us get through this. Zhao Qingran analyzed it immediately. In fact, it is also a way for them to escape with the Dark Moon Wildkin outside the poisonous fog. But it wasn't just the Dark Moon Wildkin that they had to face. And spiritualists. She doesn't think that the spiritualist is alone. She can use her family power to allow herself to practice with her friends. Then spiritualists naturally have other ways to gather together. There is only so much outside the poisonous fog, and if the spiritual bishops search carefully, they will always be found. Therefore, she felt that entering the poisonous mist was the best choice. Because this poison is definitely not the work of the spiritualists. Otherwise, the spiritualist would not need the Dark Moon Wildkin. Just use the poisonous mist to paralyze and kill everyone. And one more thing, although she thought it was impossible. But in the poisonous fog, if you can meet that Yanzu, their safety is completely guaranteed. Hee, run. My favorite entertainment is the pursuit game, Junwei said with a smile when she saw the crowd of people running away. He wasn't at all worried about how long the group could run. Because he has been observing the movement of the poisonous fog. Safe areas are running out. These people have nowhere to go. Even if the group of people who entered the poisonous fog did not run far at night, with the strength of the Dark Moon Wildkin, they would not be affected by the poisonous fog at all. When the time comes to hunt down, it will be easier. Speaking of which, he really had to thank this poisonous fog. Originally, I had to consider that this group of people would completely lose their ability to escape. No need at all now. So let him save some goodies. All of this must be the plan of the Great Spirit Master. Gen Y laughed loudly. The frenzy on his face made his expression a little distorted. It was at this time. The Dark Moon Owl, not far away, caught up with the first person. The student desperately wanted to resist. However, he was slapped to death by the Dark Moon Owl beast. No resistance. When others saw this scene, the expressions on their faces were even more frightened. Fortunately they run fast, otherwise, it will be them who will become mashed meat. At the same time, they also understood one thing. Even with spiritual power, it is impossible for them to beat this Dark Moon Wildkin. Level, size, strength. The absolute gap is here. For the newly awakened them, there is no way to fight against the Dark Moon Wildkin. Don't look, the Dark Moon Owl is chasing in our direction. At this time, someone pulled his companion and said in a panic. The people nearby continued to run away without looking back. But it didn't take long. They found out in despair. The front is full of poisonous fog. Damn, this poison gas must be the work of the spiritualists. Now we have nowhere to run, we can only fight. Otherwise, it will be finished sooner or later. someone said with a livid face. Just when he thought everyone thought the same as him. But found that most of the people nearby disappeared. What about people? Just when he was suspicious. Suddenly, not far away, a group of people gathered towards one place. What are you still doing? Hurry up and head here. Although the reason is unknown, there is no toxin inside this mushroom channel. If you don't want to leave, stay and face this monster yourself. Someone hurriedly reminded. Wait, I'll go right now. He hurried over. The original consciousness of fighting to the death disappeared in an instant. After all, if you can escape, who is willing to face the Dark Moon Wildkin that is at the silver level and is still in a runaway state? Asterisk. Symbiotic Spores. Hundreds of millions of deductions, infinite evolution. 15. Chapter 15. Yian makes a move and plays with the spiritual bishop. What happened? It turned out, they all ran away. The first second was still immersed in the joy of chasing and killing. Next second, look at the mushroom passage that suddenly appears. Gen Y was dumbfounded. What's going on? Why do these mushroom passages appear? This obviously shouldn't be a skill that a newly awakened superhuman can use. Could it be that the manager of this area has appeared? But that's not right. If the manager appeared, this Dark Moon Owl would definitely be slapped to death immediately. Then he and the other 3 companions will definitely be taken away for interrogation. What's more, he blocked the signal. The manager should not know what happened here. I just wanted to come over to join in the fun, but I saw everyone running away. I'm still wondering what's going on. It turned out to be the bishop of the bishop. Just when Gen Y was in doubt, Yian walked out of the poisonous fog slowly. However, his face was covered with white mycelium. Gen Y couldn't see Yian's real face at all. You saved them. Gen Y looked at Yian with an ugly expression. Then his eyes locked on the dagger on Yian's waist. It turns out that you are also a student of this period. I thought it was the manager who was dispatched. Come out as if you are fine. This poisonous mist is also your ability. And those mushroom passages. Awakening is only a few short days, but it is possible to have this ability. You are definitely a precious genius. Gen Y looked at Yian, and her expression gradually became excited again. If I can sacrifice you here, the Great Spirit Master will definitely give the highest level of reward. Gen Y said with great anticipation. Killing and offering sacrifices, except for the number. Nature has quality. The more genius he is, the higher the reward he will get after killing the sacrifice. Kill me, you can try it, Yian sneered disdainfully. Waved. Beside Gen Y, countless white mycelia grow and dance wildly. Gen Y still hasn't reacted. The whole person was completely tied up. Stop struggling, although it's mycelium, but it's as strong as a rope. Just your mere bronze, don't even try to break free. Yian said lightly. At the same time, he glanced vaguely around. That Dark Moon Wildkin really didn't go after other people. Instead, he ran towards himself. Yian waved his hand again, trying to trap the Dark Moon Wildkin. But it turns out that it doesn't work at all. His mycelium, even in the face of ordinary silver-level extraordinary people, can be trapped. But in the face of the Dark Moon Owl beast, which is 4 meters in size, it was directly torn off. Ha, how can you trap me? This Dark Moon Wild beast is not something you can deal with. Your poisonous fob won't work for it at all. These white silk threads can only trap me. See this scene. Gen Y laughed again. It is said that spiritualists are lunatics. Now Yian believed it. I like to yell when I have nothing to do, and 80% of the time there is something wrong with my brain. As for this Dark Moon Owl beast, Yian was not too distressed. Can't beat it frontally, then grind slowly. Moreover, his poison was strengthened again not long ago. Also awakened new toxins, just used to deal with this Dark Moon Owl beast. Silver-level Dark Moon Wildlings definitely have crystal nuclei. And I haven't tasted the blood of a silver-level monster. Yian said expectantly. Then he waved his hand. Countless mushrooms and mycelium rose into the sky. Experience this growth rate up close. Gen Y was also shocked. After a few seconds, the Dark Moon Wildkin rushed over directly. These mushrooms and mycelium can't trap it. However, after it came over, he found that there was no trace of Yian at all. He just walked over there. Hurry up and catch up. Gen Y said loudly to the Dark Moon Wildkin. To others, this Dark Moon Wildkin obeys his commands. And only Gen Y knew why the Dark Moon Wildkin obeyed the command. That's because his 3 companions are hiding in the Dark Moon Old Beast's lair, using special props to jointly control the Dark Moon Old Beast's behavior. Hear what Gen Y said. The Dark Moon Wildkin paused for a moment, then chased in the direction that Gen Y's eyes indicated. It turns out that someone is manipulating this Dark Moon Owl Beast from behind. Are those 3 people hiding in the lair? Just when the Dark Moon Wildkin left, Yi An's voice appeared behind Gen Y. You. Gen Y's pupils instantly dilated. He never thought that Yi An would hide beside him. It's just that the vision and perception are blocked by countless mycelium and mushrooms. He doesn't even know. Don't be surprised, after all, because of the ability characteristics. The way I behave is basically to stay behind the scenes and play tricks. This is a bit similar to the spirit master of your family. Speaking of the spirit master, you should have something good from the spirit master. How about sharing? Yi An said with a smile. A gift from a god-level powerhouse. Even if it's trash, it's definitely a good baby for him. At that time, even if he can't use it, he can sell it. One more thing I have to say. The feeling of the yin behind this kind of person is really cool. Impossible, the things bestowed by the Great Spirit Master cannot be meddled by lowly humans. Gen Y roared loudly and refused. In his words, he didn't even think of himself as a human being. Yi An sighed slightly at this. He knew that this man was completely helpless. Then he took a few steps back, and many hyphae covered him. Next moment, the figure of the Dark Moon Owl rushed over, running straight in the other direction. Since you don't want to hand it over, then I'll take it myself. Yi An's figure appeared again, randomly hooked up. The mycelium on Gen Y's body began to wriggle rapidly. Soon many mycelium bundled 3 items and handed them to Yi An. It all looks good. Yi An looked at it and put it away rudely. Also, I was thinking of giving you a treat. But your attitude just now made me understand that you are really hopeless. So I'll give you a present next time. Yi An snapped his fingers. Numerous tiny hyphae cling to Gen Y's ears. Feel the strangeness coming from your ears. Gen Y immediately understood what she was facing. Feel the pain in my head. He instinctively wanted to scream. However, he found that his mouth had been covered by countless mycelium. Enjoy it. Done. Yi An looked in a certain direction, where the Dark Moon Wildkin is rampaging around looking for his trail. I didn't even think of saving my teammates first. Then it's time to deal with this Dark Moon Wildkin. It's just 2 days before the end of the experience. Yi An's thoughts moved slightly. Countless mushrooms grow rapidly throughout the area. In a matter of seconds, these mushrooms are fully ripe. Then are gushing, or explode. At the same time, the poisonous mist began to slowly emerge. Only this time the poisonous fog is no longer green, but dreamy purple. Asterisk. Symbiotic Spores. Hundreds of millions of deductions, infinite evolution. 16. Chapter 16. Kill the spiritual bishop and loot the spoils. The last chance to strengthen before. Yi An chose to strengthen the toxin. After the strengthening, it was found that there were still some spiritual fruits left. So try to awaken new toxins. It was finally successful. Let Yi An get the poison ability of corruption. Yi An tried the strength of this toxin. With all his strength, he can quickly corrode the bones of the monster. Although under the effect of poisonous mist, the corrosion ability will be reduced a lot. But it can still play a role in the Dark Moon Wildkin. It just takes a long wait to get the full effect. But Yi An was not in a hurry. He had time anyway. And other toxins have been strengthened, and they can also affect the Dark Moon Wildkin. Therefore Yi An estimates, even without the ability to corrode, the own paralyzing toxin can also fully exert its effect within 3 days. I can get rid of the Dark Moon Wildwing before the end of the experience. So under the combination of multiple toxins, it shouldn't take too long to get rid of the Dark Moon Wildkin. The truth is just as Yi An guessed. A few hours later, the state of the Dark Moon Wildkin obviously began to decline. The mycelium, which was unable to affect it at all, can now delay its pace. Moreover, the fur of the Dark Moon Wildkin was completely festering. The tough skin also began to be slowly corroded. Pain from the surface of the body due to corrosion make the Dark Moon Wildkin even more violent. The other 3 spiritual bishops, trying to control the Dark Moon Wildkin, also became more laborious. So that, Most of the current Darkmoon Wildkins are in a state of autonomous fury, scurrying everywhere. The 3 spiritual bishops can only occasionally influence the Darkmoon Wildkin to change the direction of travel. But that doesn't make any sense at all. No one could be found, and he was still trapped in the poisonous fog. It was only a matter of time before their plan failed. How to do? If this continues, our sacrificial plan will fail completely. That student is too strong, and it's so weird. We can't do anything at all. The 3 people hiding in the lair communicated. This is definitely the new top talent from the human race. But if he can sacrifice his soul and body to the Great Spirit Lord, presumably my Lord will be full of joy. Since we have no choice, let the Great Spirit Master turn his attention here. A genius of this level, I believe, is also worthy of the gaze of a Great Spirit Master. Another person spoke up. I agree, communicate the Great Spirit Master. In this way, we can also make a certain contribution. Instead of the waste that has not completed even the most basic sacrifice plan. The third man spoke up. The spiritual bishop who was the first to speak also nodded in agreement. If that's the case, then respectfully invite the Great Spirit Master. The 3 immediately gave up control of the Darkmoon Wildkin. They all stood up and prepared to communicate with the Spirit Master. But right now, a trail of white mycelium bound them tightly. We were found. The expressions of the 3 people changed drastically. They are all too familiar with this white mycelium. But it makes them suspicious. These white hyphae just trap them and force them to sit down. Continue to manipulate the Darkmoon Wildkin. There was no movement. I don't even know what the plan is. Hee, the game is not over, how can the player walk away? The other side, above a mushroom that is dozens of meters high. Yian said with a smile. The reason why he didn't act on these 3 spiritualists immediately. Just for fun. They don't run around anyway. It's better to get rid of the Darkmoon Owl first. Then fix them, so that they can experience what it means to despair. But now the game is not over, people are going away. Yian naturally does not allow it. There should be some good things on those 3 spiritual bishops. But don't worry, it will probably take close to a day to solve the Darkmoon Wildkin. Take advantage of this time to study these 3 things in your hands. The research is over, then search for the 3 of them. Yian took out the items looted from Gen Y. They are a crystal, a special fragment, and a small cloth bag the size of a palm. Although this crystal is my first contact, according to the knowledge in my mind, it should be a crystal formation. Yian murmured while looking at the complicated patterns inside the crystal. Crystals have many functions, storing spiritual power and storing some special skills. There is also the engraving of the magic array. The method of use is also very simple, a little bit of spiritual power can activate this crystal. I just don't know what the formation is. After the experience, I can find someone to identify it. By the way, in the system, can you deduce the formation ability of this crystal? Yian's communication system asked. Ding, according to the pattern of the formation observed by the host, it can be inferred that this is a confinement-type formation. This formation can trap hundreds of people, and silver-level warriors can't escape temporarily. The system answered. So smart. Yian couldn't help sighing. Also a little scared, if the spiritual bishop sees him and uses this crystal formation directly. No, the ability of this formation should be used to tie up those students who escaped. This will make it convenient for the Darkmoon Owl Beast to kill those people. But why wasn't it used? Yian thought for a while. Immediately thought of something, he couldn't help laughing. I'm afraid it's because of my own poisonous fog. Let the spiritualist think that the other students can't get far. There is no need to use this array crystal. And this kind of group control formation, the other party naturally does not want to use it directly on himself. Of course this is the case now. If the other party can use it, it will definitely be used immediately. But unfortunately, as soon as he made his move, the spiritualist became incapacitated. It's all a coincidence, but this also reminds me, don't take the initiative to show up and pretend to be 13 if it's okay. It's still safe to hide behind the scenes. Otherwise, in an accident, I may be gone. Yian exclaimed. The vigilance in the heart is also greatly increased. He decided to live on his own in the future, and he would not come out after being killed. Thought here. Yian's thoughts moved slightly. An order was given out. The 3 spiritual bishops who had just been bound began to be scoured by the white mycelium. There are only fragments. Feel what you find. Yian was a little disappointed. He also thought that he could find out the crystal formation. So poor, there is no need to live. And to be on the safe side, it's best to kill first. There's no need to play any more games. Yian murmured. The other side. The white hyphae began to cling to the 3 people's ends. No more torture this time. Instead, let the white mycelium inject toxins that destroy the inside of their bodies. In less than a few minutes, the corrosive toxin completely killed the 3. As for the Gen Y on the other side, died half an hour ago. Asterisk. Symbiotic spores. Hundreds of millions of deductions, infinite evolution. 17. Chapter 17. Devour Godhead fragments, endless failure. The bags are filled with crystal nuclei, not of much value. Yian opened the bag first and looked at it and said, crystal nucleus. He's outnumbered, so that there is no way to take it away, but the storage space for the dagger is rented. Although he has no money, all he stores are crystal nuclei. Guaranteed with 2 bronze-grade nuclei. He just opened the storage space. After throwing the small cloth bag into the storage space, Yian set his sights on the last item. These are like symbols and like words. It looks pretty ordinary, but each of these 4 spiritualists has such a fragment. That means that this thing is definitely related to the spiritual bishop. Is it their badge of identity? But it shouldn't be mediocre. Yian took a closer look. Didn't see a reason. Then I thought about it and tried to inject spiritual power. Effective. Look at the fragments that emit a faint light. Yian finally smiled, then continued to inject spiritual power. The light is getting stronger and stronger. At the same time, the other 3 fragments also shone slightly. It was as if the shard in his hand was calling the other 3. Could it be that achievement is a communication thing? Yian couldn't help but wonder. But is it necessary to make things so weird for communication? No need. So Yian felt something else was strange. But just based on him, it is really impossible to figure out the function of this fragment. Just when Yian was about to give up, the mushrooms under my feet suddenly started shaking. At first, Yian thought it was the Dark Moon Wildkin that destroyed the bottom of the mushroom. But after sensing it, I found that the Dark Moon Wildkin was not nearby. It's my symbiotic origin. Feel it again. Yian found his symbiotic primordial spore a little violent. His first reaction was that his origin was unstable. But then dropped the idea. One's own symbiotic origin cannot be unstable. But impatient, urgent, feel the emotion. Yian was also instantly infected by it. Look at the pieces in your hand. He suddenly wanted to swallow it impatiently. No, I can't swallow it. Yian saw the pieces that had been sent to his mouth. Immediately suppressed the inner desire. Although I don't know why. Since his own symbiotic origin wants to eat this fragment. Just let it eat by yourself. But you can't eat it with your own body. Thought here. Yian's thoughts moved slightly. Countless white hyphae instantly extended over. Wrap the shard tightly. The hyphae began to protrude venom frantically, corroding the shell of the shards. And greedily absorbed the energy emitted by the fragments. Just 4 hours later, the debris completely disappeared. Instead, a special fruit was presented to Yian. Or rather, mushrooms that store fragmented energy. It seems to be fine. Yian hesitated. Finally, he gritted his teeth and took off this illusory fruit. Then swallow it in the stomach. This power, so powerful. The moment you bite the fruit, Yian felt an incomparably powerful force. The amount of this power is not much, but the rank is definitely high. Compare your spiritual power. One is like a god, the other is like a normal person. Therefore, although this power is not much, even only a slight trace. But it wasn't something Yian could contend against and absorb. And at first, there was no movement, and suddenly riots began. Just when Yian's body couldn't bear the force, the imprint of his symbiotic origin suddenly appeared. Guide this power and absorb it. That is at this moment. An even more painful feeling emerged from his consciousness. If the body couldn't bear it, it would be like an explosion. That feeling right now is the feeling of being smashed to pieces and ravaged all over. Is it a feeling from my symbiotic object? I thought I could absorb it, but I didn't expect something to happen. Yian said with an embarrassed expression. This painful feeling is looming. Suddenly real, suddenly like an illusion. This was more unbearable for him than the intense pain. System, deduce my current situation, Yian said almost through gritted teeth. Ding, the system is starting to deduce. Judging from the encounter with the host's symbiotic origin, the energy absorbed by the host is very likely to be a godhead fragment. The game continues. Ding, the deduction is over. It has been confirmed that this energy belongs to the god-level powerhouse, the godhead fragment of the spirit master. Your symbiotic object, the primordial spore, is now in the process of devouring the evolution of godhead fragments. The current evolution success rate is 1 in a billion. The system replied. The godhead fragment of the spirit master. 1 in a billion success rate. Yian heard the news. It's utterly desperate. This also swallows a fart, just GG, forget it. Just when Yian thought so, the sound of the system sounded again. Ding, as long as there is enough spiritual power, the symbiotic primitive spores of the host can continue to replicate themselves. Theoretically, with enough spiritual power, even with a 1 in a billion probability, it will succeed. Now inform the host about the evolution. Evolution failed, evolution failed, evolution failed, evolution failed. Evolution failed, evolution failed, evolution failed. Fail, fail, fail. Fail, 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 fail. Quote. At the beginning, the sound played quickly. But then the sound was only a single one failure. In Yian's mind, a picture appeared. In this picture, countless words of failure are written. System, I suspect that you are an undercover agent sent by the enemy. Yian gritted his teeth in pain and said, the pain from primordial spores is already a lot. The system also needs to engage in sounds and pictures to consume its own spirit. He can feel it now. You can faint at any time. But he didn't dare to close his eyes like that. After this period of time, he could feel the decrease in the spiritual power in his body. Its own spores, though not as powerful. Each self-replication consumes only a very small amount of spiritual power. But after more times, the consumption of spiritual power accumulated, but also more and more. Although the speed is not fast, but after a long time, I still can't stand it. So he needs to replenish spiritual power. And the means of replenishing spiritual power is naturally relying on the spore crops all over the map. Although there is no flesh and blood essence absorbed. But these spore crops can also absorb spiritual power from the soil and the air. Although the efficiency is not high, it can definitely maintain consumption. It just needs him to pick the fruit and eat it. If fainted, then there is really no way to replenish spiritual power. But sometimes, it's not just patience that will get you through it. The pain kept accumulating, and it hit Yian's spirit countless times. Finally, Yian still couldn't hold back and fell into a coma. Asterisk. Symbiotic spores. Hundreds of millions of deductions, infinite evolution. 18. Chapter 18. 4.6 billion evolutions, the sequence of gods. Evolution failed, evolution failed, evolution failed. Fail, 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 fail. Quote. Ding, the ability, probability evolution, is triggered. Your symbiotic object, primordial spore, evolved into life spore. You got the rebirth trait. Evolution failed, evolution failed, evolution failed. Quote. Evolution failed. Ding, your ability, probability evolution, is triggered. Your symbiotic object, life spore, has evolved into indestructible spore. Evolution failed, evolution failed, fail, evolution failed, evolution failed, evolution, success. Your indestructible spore, devoured and merged with the godhead successfully and evolved into a special life form, phantom spore. Evolution is over. This evolution is about 4.6 billion times. Ding, you have obtained the sequence of God. The current awakening level of this sequence, 1/100th, 0.00/100,000. Note, this sequence can only devour the awakening of divine power. Devouring divinity will greatly increase the level of awakening. If the host grows to a god level, this sequence will automatically awaken. Quote. The pain from the symbiotic subject vanished. But Yian didn't wake up immediately. Instead, continued to sleep. A few hours later, Yian then slowly opened his eyes. I feel like I've been attacked by the evil god. Yian rubbed his eyes. Said confusedly, he remembered having a dream. The content of the dream has been forgotten. But there was one thing that impressed him. That is, in the depths of my mind, there is a voice that keeps repeating. He whispered in his ear like an evil god. What was I doing before? Consciousness gradually wakes up. Yian looked around blankly. A memory also gradually emerged. By the way, my spores are going to devour the evolution of Godhead. At the time, I couldn't hold back and fell into a coma. Now there is no pain when I wake up. I am successful. Yian suddenly remembered everything. He started the communication system. The system also informed Yian of the situation. It really worked. And the ability of probabilistic evolution actually allowed my symbiotic origin to evolve twice. This is too incredible, Yian said in disbelief. Ding, at that time the host's symbiotic origin was constantly replicating rebirth and death, and in order to be able to devour Godhead fragments, it constantly changed its own adaptability. So it is possible to evolve through probabilistic evolution. And 4.6 billion times of adjustment and adaptation, probabilistic evolution, has only been launched twice. So under normal circumstances, it is almost impossible for the host's symbiotic origin to evolve as a result. Unless the host devours a higher level Godhead and re-experiences the previous situation, it is possible to continue to evolve through this ability. At this time, the system replied, "Go through it again." Yian shook his head subconsciously. He didn't want to experience it again. But, if he really had the chance, he still gritted his teeth and tried. Although painful, but the benefits to yourself are real. Want to be stronger without going through some pain? How is that possible? Hey. Why is it itchy? Yian subconsciously rubbed the corner of his mouth. It turned out that a white mycelium was attached to the corner of his mouth. Induced this mycelium. Yian also immediately understood why he was still alive. When he was in a coma, this mycelium clings to the corners of its own mouth and injects the spiritual power absorbed by other spore crops directly into its own mouth. I forgot this method. Fortunately, this thing instinctively sends spiritual power to me. Yian couldn't help sighing. Then I want to stand up and move my body. Then he saw the other 3 Godhead fragments beside him. Fight. If you can absorb the first one, then the rest will naturally not be a problem. Even thinking of the pain from before, Yian only flinched. Grit your teeth and let the mycelium extract its power. Then combine the fruits and eat them. I don't feel it. The imagined pain did not appear. Instead, it was a sense of relief. After a little induction, Yian found out. The power of this Godhead was directly absorbed. After thinking about it for a while, Yian suddenly understood. The source of his own symbiosis has devoured the divinity of the fragments of the Godhead and completed the evolution. Now fully accustomed to divinity. Of course, it is mainly the divinity of the Spirit Lord. As for other divinities, Yian estimated that he would absorb them, and he might even suffer. But the divinity of the Spirit Lord is absolutely no problem. Ding, your symbiotic object, the phantom spores, successfully absorbed the spirituality of the Spirit Master. Current God Sequence Awakening, 100 million. At this time, the system prompt also sounded. A shard increases by 100. The total awakening degree is 1 million, that is to say, I need to swallow 10,000 copies. Yian suddenly frowned. Although the spiritual bishops are rampant, there are also a lot of them. But it doesn't usually appear. The traces that have appeared in recent decades are only a few hundred people. It seems impossible in a short time. Or, if I can find the Spirit Master and give him to. It is estimated that he swallowed me. If you don't become a god, you can't fight a god-level existence at all. If I become a god myself, there is no need to devour the spiritual master's divine awakening. ... Yian shook his head slightly, no longer thinking about it. Then absorbed the energy of the other 2 fragments. Then picked up the dagger and glanced at the time information. It's the 15th day. In other words, the training will be over soon. Exactly, I have harvested what I should have harvested. Yian stretched his muscles and bones. Then I remembered one more thing. That Dark Moon wild beast should be dead. Yian not only muttered. Then checked some information. Found dead indeed. The essence of flesh and blood, and even the bones, were completely absorbed this time. And the crystal nucleus is actually already in his pocket. But he didn't know it before. It was absorbed so cleanly. Is it a new ability that has awakened again? System, help me make a table, like a game attribute. Yian thought for a while and said, "It is more troublesome to carefully sense your own abilities. Let the system help." In addition to the deduction capabilities, this system still has some other basic capabilities. The host information column has been created, and the host can view its detailed information at any time in the future. The system also responded immediately. Yian nodded and started to check his own information. Open black lens bracket name. Yian male close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket age. 18 close black lens bracket. Level. Silver, black iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, grandmaster, king, emperor, demigod, god. Symbiote. Phantom spores. Original attribute. Indestructible, spirit, illusory. Ability sequence. God, growth, perception, poison, parasitism, absorb, evolution. God. 300 100ths, 00 million. Growth. Cell repair, spiritual repair, mycelium strengthening, energy pipeline, low-level neural tentacles. Close black lens bracket. Perception. Low-level neural networks, neural units, mental communication. Close black lens bracket. Toxin. Powerful paralysis, powerful blinding, powerful sleep, powerful corrosion, psychotoxin. Close black lens bracket. Parasitism. Dormancy, dormant parasitism, spiritual parasitism. Close black lens bracket. Drain. Corrosion absorption, compression storage, spiritual absorption. Close black lens bracket. Evolution. Ability promotion, probability evolution, spiritual strengthening. Symbiotic spores. Hundreds of millions of deductions, infinite evolution. 19. Chapter 19. The assessment is over, the Spirit Master appears. This change is bigger than I thought. I won't talk about the changes in skills. My symbiote characteristics, there are actually 3. And these 3 can also cross fields and directly make my spore crops change the form of their own existence. Look at your own attribute skills. Yian dared to sense the specific ability. Involuntarily exclaimed, the 3 characteristics of its own symbiont correspond to the 3 states of existence of spore crops. Immortality represents life, which is the normal body. The word spirit, as its name suggests, is the spirit body. Unreal is a special state between the 2, and it can even be said that this state is more powerful in a sense. At the same time, the abilities of these 3 states are related to each other. Complement each other and make yourself stronger. It can be said. Now the value of his symbiote is no weaker than that of angels, dragons and other mythical creatures. In terms of combat power, it may not be enough. But in terms of potential, it is definitely more powerful. And these abilities of his are mainly obtained by devouring the godhead of the Spirit Master. It can be seen how powerful and outrageous a god-level powerhouse is. At the same time, Yian also understood why there were so many human race god-level powerhouses. A mere spiritual master has been able to make trouble in the human race for so many years. Because the Spirit Master is a phantom creature in a spiritual life body. He can hide in the void and hide in the spiritual world of other beings. Or the mysterious phantom world. You can also divide your godhead into countless pieces. In other words, it is similar to its own spore characteristics. So it should be possible to respawn with these fragments. In this case, even catching the Spirit Master is useless. He can be reborn at any time. In that case, does my growth path coincide with the Spirit Master? If I become a god in the future, can I refer to the Spirit Master? No, I can even swallow the Spirit Master's godhead. In this way, I don't have to work hard to gather the godhead. Yian is not only fantasizing about it, but that's just fantasy. Again, if you don't become a god, you still want to swallow a god. How is this possible? And his own rank is only silver. There is a long way to practice. My own symbiote, I can't say how many times it will evolve. In the end, he may have become unsuitable for the Spirit Lord's godhead line. Ha, silver. Yian blinked suddenly. Looking at the data, I found that it is really the silver level. Unexpectedly, I slept for a while, and it turned out to be silver. And what surprised him the most? His cultivation has improved so fast, and he doesn't even feel the slightest vain feeling. It's a solid silver level. Ding, when the host symbiote evolves, the body is also washed with spiritual power. This process is beneficial. The host's body has grown enough to carry silver level spiritual power. The system reminded. After systematic explanation, Yian also understood. Unexpectedly, the evolution of this symbiote has such unexpected benefits. Now that everything is clear, the next step is to prepare for departure. Yian looked around. Feel it again. I found that the group of people I rescued were all safely staying in the huge mushroom house in the poisonous mist. After confirmation, he waved. The huge mushrooms on the soles of the feet began to shrink back into the cage rapidly. The mushrooms of the entire map began to quickly swallow the poisonous mist back. Then all the mycelium mushrooms, after swallowing the poisonous mist, began to rapidly die and rot. After decay, energy and nutrients are quickly absorbed by other hyphae. In the end, less than 10 minutes, the poisonous fog of the entire map disappeared. All mushrooms rot and die. All that was left was a group of mushrooms with delicious fruits in front of Yian. These spiritual power fruits are produced after the death of his mushroom mycelium. Yian had enough to hook his fingers. Countless mycelia protruded from the underside of these fruits, picking these spiritual power fruits and sending them to Yian. Yian stored all these spiritual power fruits in the storage space. Then the mind moved slightly. The last strand of mycelium is also completely dead. This way there is no evidence. Even if something is really found, it's a big deal to reveal the identity. And I also killed the spiritual bishop. The people above must think that I am a low-key genius, not some accomplice of the spiritualist. Yian clapped his hands and showed a light-hearted smile. This experience, the harvest is really plentiful. It's a pity that there is no signal now, so I can't view the standings. I don't know who will be the first, and how does it compare to myself. Actually, the reward of the points list is quite fragrant, and it is at the forefront of the points list. With attention, it is easier to be recruited by higher education institutions, and there are more resources to enjoy. Yian muttered, because his method of killing those monsters is remote parasitism and poisoning. So this dagger on the waist cannot be detected. There were only a few monsters he killed manually. Therefore, the points are definitely not high, or even ridiculously low. If he exposes his deeds, the people above know what he does and his talents. Certainly willing to pay a high price to train him. But after all, he devoured the Spirit Master's godhead, and became involved with the Spirit Master. In the eyes of outsiders, this is not a good thing. Before figuring out the situation, or finding a reliable backer, go as the king. So think about this kind of thing. Finish the last thing. Yian began to pretend to be suspicious and wary. Wander around. Yanzu, here. Walked around for over 2 hours. Yian heard a familiar voice. Hello, I didn't expect us to meet again. Yian turned around and saw the pair of good girlfriends with the big white rabbit. So he showed a smile and greeted cordially. I didn't expect to meet you here. Yanzu, are you alright? Zhao Qingran asked with a slight smile. It's alright, the spiritual force couldn't support it in the poisonous fog before and passed out. When I woke up, I found myself lying inside the mushroom. Then it didn't take long for the mushrooms and poisonous mist to disappear quickly. To be honest, I'm still very confused now. What the hell happened here? Yian said with a dazed look. We don't know. But relatively speaking, you were really lucky. You don't know, outside the poisonous fog, there are spiritual bishops. At this time, Yang Meng said, tell them what they have experienced. There are spiritual bishops. Then who saved us? If it is the manager, those spiritual bishops will definitely be slapped to death. Yian also pretended to be surprised. Then another rational analysis. We don't know either. Forget it, Yanzu. Since the incident has happened and passed, and we are all fine, let's not talk about this. I forgot to ask you for your contact information last time, but this time I have to. Yang Meng hasn't finished speaking yet. Suddenly, there was a loud rumbling sound in the sky. Even the ground began to tremble violently. No wonder the place of experience has not moved. Damn Spirit Master, how dare you make trouble? Death to me. On the sky, an angry voice sounded. Immediately afterwards, the spiritual power of heaven and earth gathered in a riot. The managers here seem to know what's going on here, and traced the trace of the Spirit Master, and launched an attack from the air. The mere king dared to shoot at me. God can't be humiliated. At this moment, a hazy and illusory voice sounded. No need to guess, this must be the voice of the Spirit Lord. Even Yi An's psychology raised a special sense of familiarity. No, let's go. Suddenly, Yi An thought of something, and hurriedly turned around to remind the two women beside him. He also activated teleportation immediately and chose to leave. Symbiotic Spores. Hundreds of millions of deductions, infinite evolution. 20. Chapter 20. Lu Ruhua and #039's suggestion, the Hidden Special Academy. Wait, Yanzu. Yang Meng just wanted to stop Yi An and ask for contact information. But Yi An had already left. It was at this time. There is an unparalleled sense of oppression in the sky. The bodies of the two women were shaken, and they almost fell to the ground. Go quickly. At this time, Zhao Qingran also said eagerly. This is a battle between a god-level existence and a king-level powerhouse. The aftermath alone was enough to make them die on the spot. Now the shield of the field disappears. Naturally, you have to send it away quickly. Just after the two girls left, a larger force appeared in the sky again. This force directly blocked the coercion and aftermath of the battle. Spirit Lord, it looks like I didn't beat you up enough last time. I met you today, I'll see if you can still run away. Another voice sounded. This is the god-level powerhouse of the human race coming to reinforce. The Spirit Lord is in chaos in the human kingdom. The human race will naturally have strong people staring at him. As long as the trace is found, the Spirit Master will definitely appear at the first time to hunt down. Hee, 10 more, you and I can run as well. Even if you kill me now, it's useless. The Spirit Master sneered. Then in the sky, a more powerful turmoil broke out again. What are you looking at? The experience is over, hurry up and get out. At this time, the powerful king of the famous clan found that there were still so many newcomers standing in the same place. Involuntarily he snorted. Suddenly, everyone teleported away. When everyone leaves, in the sky, the battle outside the universe has completely let go. The whole planet started to turmoil as a result. The famous clan king looked at the planet he managed with some distress. If it is not the magic circle is strong enough. Now the planet is estimated to have exploded. ... Fortunately, I slipped fast, and there was no problem with the transmission. Just the aftermath of the battle between the king and the strong can easily kill me. It is even said that one party is a god-level existence. Teleported back to the playground. Yi An was completely relieved. What's the matter, you came out so late. And you're still scared. At this time, Lu Ruhua came to him. Only then did Yi An realize that there were not many people on the playground. Some of the remaining ones also began to leave one after another. It looked like Lu Ruhua was waiting for him here. It's about the Spirit Master. The place where I went to experience this time. Yi An briefly explained the situation. Damn Spirit Master. After Lu Ruhua heard this, her eyes couldn't help showing a hint of anger. Anyway, you'll be fine. The powerhouse of the human race will sooner or later pull out the Spirit Master and let him fall completely. Lu Ruhua then restrained her emotions, looked at Yi An and comforted. I do hope that he will fall later, and then I will be able to drink soup when I grow up. Yi An muttered inwardly. On the surface, however, it was silent. Okay, let's not talk about these things. Spiritual Bishop will naturally be dealt with. Talk about you first, Lu Ruhua suddenly said with a serious face. At this moment, Yi An thought he had exposed something. I've been keeping an eye on your score. Overall. Not optimistic. I don't know what your plans are in the future. Lu Ruhua asked. What she said was actually euphemistic enough. Yi An's results are not optimistic. It can only be said that it is very bad. She has taught for many years, and she has never met a student with grades like Yi An. Join the Free Army and go to the endless battlefield to fight. Yi An thought for a while and replied. In his situation, it is impossible for ordinary colleges to accept him. He couldn't even go to the Rubbish Academy. Therefore, it is better to go to the endless battlefield to fight. With his ability characteristics, the endless battlefield is the most suitable place. There is a big problem with going to endless battlefield. The death rate is too high. Regardless of the cultivation base, it may fall at any time in the endless battlefield. But that's how the world is. Some civilizations may perish at any time. Not to mention personally, you just woke up, and going directly to the endless battlefield is to die in vain. Why don't I recommend a college to you? Lu Ruhua looked at Yi An and asked. Yi An nodded. if it's your teacher's recommendation, I'm willing to go. Okay, then go home and wait for my news. By the way, now you have also awakened successfully, and you can apply for the living allowance of the extraordinary. Lu Ruhua looked at Yi An's thin body and reminded. Okay teacher, I got it. Yi An nodded, then he waved goodbye to Lu Ruhua. It actually reached the silver level, and the breath is so strong. I didn't expect that the poor students I usually take care of would turn into geniuses that are rare in thousands of years. Sure enough, life is full of surprises. Watching Yi An leave, Lu Ruhua murmured in shock. Although Yi An hides well enough, he has never let his cultivation base waver. But just under her deliberate perception, she still instantly saw through Yi An's cultivation realm. After all, her level is much higher than Yi An. Yi An's little trick, unless she ignores it, she won't be able to hide it from her. It was also because he saw through Yi An's cultivation. She would only think about recommending an academy to Yi An. A special academy that is unknown to the world, but surpasses all schools. And this kid is really calm. Even if the points are bleak, but with this cultivation base, the universities are definitely rushing to get it. But he would rather join the Free Army and go to the endless battlefield than expose his cultivation base casually. This clumsy nature is more cautious than I imagined. Lu Ruhua couldn't help but recall Yi An's usual performance. Subconsciously exclaimed, the usual Yi An, in order not to attract attention. In the literature test, some questions are deliberately wrong. During basic martial arts training, his strength could easily enter the top 3 in the class. But he deliberately made his ranking lower in the class. I never thought about the most important thing in my life right now. He still does. The points are deliberately made so bleak, and the cultivation base is hidden. Lu Ruhua didn't even understand. What the hell is Yi An afraid of? He was so cautious that he gave up the opportunity to enter an institution of higher learning. However, to Yi An, when he was in school, he deliberately suppressed his grades, and really didn't want to attract attention. But newcomers experience points and other issues. That is all aspects of consideration. Of course, the main reason is that he is a transmigrator. Before crossing, he read a lot of novels. There are all kinds of heaven's favored people being targeted in various ways. Therefore, Yi An has a certain mentality of hiding clumsiness. In addition to this world, there are 10,000 races who want to kill the genius of human beings. And countless cases of geniuses being killed. Yi An is even more afraid to reveal his talent. Asterisk.